Hello, my name is Julian. I'm 25, and I work as a software developer for a small tech company just outside of town. Dylan is one of my best friends. We've been very close. We've known each other since college and have kept in touch over the years. But today, I'd like to share a story about an unexpected event. That completely changed my life and had a significant impact on his family as well. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe so that I can continue to bring you fascinating true stories like this one, and stay tuned until the end. Trust me, you do not want to miss how this story unfolds. Dylan and I have always had a strong friendship, but I must admit that I've always felt drawn to his mother, Layla. There's something about her that radiates warmth and positivity, and her energy is downright magnetic. When I visited their house, I frequently found myself chatting with her. She is simply stunning, always laughs at my jokes, and is more approachable than Dylan. It wasn't something I wanted to dwell on, but she was so captivating. One afternoon, I had some free time and decided to drop by Dylan's place unannounced, thinking it would be a delightful surprise. Without hesitation, I grabbed my keys and drove over. JN was not at home when I arrived, but Layla opened the door. She looked surprised but welcoming, saying, "This is unexpected. Dylan didn't tell me you were coming, but he did smile and laugh softly." She stepped aside, inviting me into her usual glow, making the moment both comfortable and strangely different. I had no idea how much that visit would change my life. I smiled and rubbed the back of my neck, trying to keep it cool. I hoped to surprise him. When I responded, she laughed and stepped aside. "He's not here, but you're welcome to stay until he returns." Just then, a torrential downpour began, making it impossible to leave. Layla looked out the window, raised an eyebrow, and returned to me. "I am definitely not going anywhere in this weather," she said, her smile widening. "It looks like you'll have to stay a little longer." I continued nodding, secretly appreciating the chance to stay, and she guided me to the living room where we took our seats. The rain created a quiet, intimate atmosphere as we sat and talked. I couldn't stop admiring her presence. Layla offered me a warm cup of tea as the rain pelted the windows. We sat in the cozy living room, discussing work life and, of course, JN. Her soft and inviting laughter made me feel at home. Every now and then, our eyes would meet for a moment longer than usual, and I could feel a subtle spark between us as we talked. She leaned back in her chair, casually crossing her legs. I couldn't help but notice her graceful, confident posture. Although she was 50 years old, her energy was timeless. Her smile, everything felt so youthful. I attempted to conceal my admiration, but I believe she sensed it as her eyes twinkled. With amusement, every time I glanced her way, "Julian," she said with a playful smirk interrupting my thoughts, "you appear unusually quiet tonight. What's on your mind?" I hesitated, chuckling nervously as I hadn't anticipated finding myself here alone with her. She tilted her head, her eyes warm and playful. "Well, it's a pleasant surprise," she said softly. "John isn't around much these days, and it's beneficial to have some company." Her words were casual, but something about her tone made my heart race. We continued talking, and the conversation became more personal. She told stories about her youth. I was completely captivated as she described her past dreams and how her life had changed over the years. The storm outside intensified and showed no signs of letting up. Layla looked at the clock. Then she smiled thoughtfully back at me. "It appears that the weather will not clear up." She said it would happen soon. I nodded, looking out the window at the torrential rain. "Yeah, I doubt I'll be able to make it home tonight." She nodded, her tone gentle and understanding. "You're welcome to stay here if you wish. Jun's room is right down the hall." I smiled. "Thank you, Layla. But I'm also aware of the thrill bubbling inside me. I'd be grateful." She stepped away for a moment before returning with extra blankets, which she placed on the couch beside me. Our hands brushed as she handed them over, and I felt a surge of warmth run through me, prompting me to look up at her. She held my gaze, her expression soft and inviting, and everything else seemed to fade away. "You know," she said softly, almost whispering, "I've always thought you were a charming young man, and now that you're here, it's been a pleasure talking just the two of us." My heart raced. "I feel the same way, Layla," I responded, the air between us thick with unspoken emotions. She looked at me, her eyes searching for mine, and then slowly leaned in. I felt her warmth, and the soft scent of her perfume filled the air between us. In that moment, I knew it was something I would never forget. She held my gaze for a moment longer, and I noticed the warmth in her eyes. Without breaking eye contact, she reached over and brushed a loose strand of hair from my forehead, her fingers lingering longer than necessary. My breath caught as her touch sent a thrill through me, and I instinctively leaned into her hand. "Julian," she whispered softly, almost sighing, "you're really something." The words lingered in the air, and in that moment I couldn't hold back anymore. Moving closer, I gently took her hand in mine. Her skin was warm and soft, and she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned in, her lips parting slightly as if inviting me to come closer. With my heart racing, I leaned forward and brushed my lips against hers tentatively. At first, she responded to her kiss, tender and warm, her hand resting gently on my cheek. We paused for a moment. Her touch jolted me, and I couldn't help but trace the curve of her waist, feeling her warmth beneath my fingers. She slowly drew back her eyes. She whispered, gleaming with a playful glint, "I never thought this would happen. But now, I suppose we both know." I smiled and nodded to indicate where this was going. "I'm glad it is." The rain continued to fall outside, but everything inside felt warm and close. She leaned back into the couch, pulling me along, and I wrapped my arms around her, holding her close. Her fingers traced patterns across my back, each touch generating new warmth between us. Our lips touched again, this time deeper. More intimately, her hands explored her warmth, inviting me as if she'd been waiting for this moment as much as I had. Her fingers slid down my arms, her touch light and teasing, and I couldn't help but smile against her lips. She looked at me with the same warmth in her eyes, her fingers resting against my chest as if feeling my heart race beneath her touch. I leaned down, kissing her neck, letting my lips linger as I felt her shiver against me. Each moment felt timeless, and I lost myself in the warmth of her embrace, our hearts beating together as the rain poured down outside. She sighed softly, arching slightly so my hand could find the curve of her waist, a perfect fit. Beneath my touch, encouraged by her response, I let my hand slide slowly, tracing the outline of her back, feeling the warmth through the thin fabric of her sweater. She let out a quiet murmur, her hand coming to rest on mine, pulling me closer. Her warmth enveloped me, and the feeling was so intoxicating that I couldn't help but lean down, brushing my lips along the side of her neck, savoring the softness of her skin and the way she shivered, tilting her head to the side to invite me further. I pressed against her, gradually increasing the intensity of her response, and attempted to slip my hands inside her sweater. It felt amazing to feel her softness, and it gave me more energy. I couldn't wait any longer to learn more about her. Our gazes met, and we both understood each other. I leaned in again and kissed her deeply, Savoring the moment, I placed my hand on her hip and felt her pulse quicken beneath my touch. She appeared to relax completely against me, her body molding to mine as I held her close, each touch feeling more natural and connected. She looked at me with warm, emotion-filled eyes. We couldn't quite breathe, and then, with a soft smile, she leaned back into the couch, guiding my hand to her shoulder, her fingers lacing through mine. I let my other hand slide down her leg, feeling the warmth beneath my palm as I stroked her thighs softly. The closeness between us was intense, and our kisses slowed, savoring each moment as our connection deepened, making me lose track of everything but the feeling of her in my arms as we pulled apart, breathless and dazed. The world outside had transformed, and the pain continued to pour, casting a muted ambiance that wrapped us in our own little world. I could see the flush in her cheeks and the way her lips glistened from our kisses, igniting a spark of desire deep within me. I had never felt anything like it, a primal connection that drew me closer, urging me to explore further. Perhaps we should relocate to a more comfortable location, she suggested. Her voice low and invitingly laced with mischief. I could only nod. A rush of exhilaration swept over me as she led me down the dimly lit hallway toward her bedroom. The door creaked open, revealing a space that felt both intimate and welcoming, softly lit by the warm glow of a lamp. Her presence brought the room to life, despite its tasteful furnishing. She turned to face me, her gaze steady. The air between us was thick with anticipation as the door clicked shut behind us, the sound echoing in the silence, heightening the moment. I took a step closer, drawn to her like a moth to a flame, and my heart raced as she approached me. I reached for her hand, intertwining our fingers, the warmth of her skin sending something electric through me. With a gentle tug, I pulled her closer, my other hand brushing against her waist, feeling the softness of her body against mine. She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling with desire and mischief, and I felt my resolve slip away as I leaned down, capturing her lips once more. As I drew her to me, the kiss intensified, becoming more urgent as our bodies complemented one another. I whispered, barely audible. Her response came in the form of a soft smile, and she nodded, her gaze locked on mine. "I've never been more certain of anything," she replied, her voice steady. And filled with warmth from that affirmation, I leaned down again to capture her lips. This time, I stepped back and gently guided her onto the bed. The mattress felt soft. As she sank into the soft and inviting mattress, I hovered over her, the anticipation in the air palpable. I took my time, letting my lips trail along her neck, kissing softly along her collarbone, savoring every moment as I felt her body shiver beneath my touch. Her fingers danced along my back, urging me on as I explored her, savoring every gasp and every sigh that escaped her lips. I paused momentarily, gazing down at her. Her gaze, brimming with longing and trust, left me speechless. I leaned in closer, our bodies aligning perfectly as I pressed against her hand, brushing her thigh, a soft yet possessive gesture that sent a shiver through both of us as the rain continued to beat against the window. I lost myself in her, the world outside fading away. I moved with intensity fueled by our connection, every kiss, every touch exploring the depths of our desires. Our bodies moved in sync, lost in the rhythm of passion, and I felt a sense of fulfillment wash over me as each moment pulled us closer together. The night stretched on, filled with whispered laughter and gasps of pleasure, as we completely lost ourselves in each other. The boundaries of our friendship blurred, replaced by something deeper, something wild and beautiful. I had never imagined a night could unfold like this, Each moment brought us closer, wrapping us in a cocoon of intimacy. Eventually, as exhaustion crept in, I lay beside her, my arm draped protectively around her shoulders. We were both panting, our breaths mingling as we took in the aftermath of our connection. I felt her fingers lightly tracing patterns on my chest, and I leaned down, kissing her forehead softly, savoring the warmth of her body against mine. Tonight was incredible, I murmured, my heart swelling with emotions I couldn't quite name. She turned toward me, a soft smile gracing her lips. "It really was," she replied, her eyes sparkling with satisfaction and a hint of mischief. I believe I could adapt to this. As we drifted into a peaceful slumber, the rain outside began to lighten, but inside our hearts remained intertwined, forever changed by this unexpected night of passion. I knew then that this was just the beginning of something special, a story woven with threads of desire, friendship, and newfound love. We lay entwined in each other's arms, basking in the afterglow of our passion. The world outside slowly returned to normal. The rain had lightened, and the rhythmic patter against the window created a soothing background to our whispered conversations and soft laughter. Just as I was drifting off to sleep, the ring of the doorbell jolted me awake. I froze, my heart racing as I glanced at her. A mix of surprise and panic appeared in her eyes. The reality of the moment crashed down on us. Her son, my friend, was home. "Is that him?" she began, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, it's him," I replied in my mind. Racing, we quickly scrambled to straighten ourselves up, but the frantic rustling of sheets and clothing only added to the chaos. The doorbell rang again, more urgently this time, making my pulse quicken. "Quick, hide," she urged, her eyes wide with urgency. I glanced around the room, desperately searching for a place to go. Without thinking, I dove into the closet, pressing myself against the wall, my heart pounding in my ears. I held my breath, straining to hear what was happening outside your home. I heard my friend call out, his voice echoing through the house. "I thought I'd find you here," he said to her. She opened the door to the living room, her demeanor shifting from flustered to yes. "I'm here," she replied, her voice steady despite the chaos in her heart. I could see her through the back of the closet door, standing tall, her expression betraying nothing. I couldn't help but admire her. "Were you caught in the storm? Did the storm catch you?" he inquired as he stepped inside, completely oblivious to the atmosphere within the house. I held my breath, wishing I could see him and inquire about his level of comfort. She replied, a hint of nervousness creeping into her voice. "How was your day?" "It was good. I was hoping we could hang out." He cheerfully said that he had brought some snacks from the store. I couldn't help but smirk, amused by the normality of his words in contrast to the intensity of what had just happened. Of course. "Just give me a moment," she said, glancing back. She gestured toward the bedroom door as if sensing my presence, and I held my breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Would she invite him in? Would he sense something amiss? "All right, I'll be over there," she said. Turning away from the door and heading back toward me, I could see the resolve in her eyes, a determination not to let this moment slip away quickly. "Get dressed," she whispered urgently, her heart racing. Just as fast as my heart, I hurried to get dressed, trying to calm the storm of thoughts swirling in my mind from the living room. I could hear my friend rustling through bags, his movements a steady reminder of the reality waiting outside. "Do you think he knows?" I asked. I spoke softly, my voice betraying the panic I was trying to suppress. "No, he can't," she replied, biting her lip, caught between her teeth a mix of exhilaration and nervousness in her expression. "Just act normal. We'll figure it out with one last look. We silently prepared ourselves to face what came next. I stepped out of the closet, my heart still hammering, and joined her in the living room. My friend turned to us, grinning. "Broadly, there you are," he joked, completely unaware of the tension in the air. "I was starting to think you were hiding from me, just tidying up a bit." She answered smoothly, her eyes flicking toward me with a meaningful glance as the evening unfolded. Laughter echoed through the room, covering the undercurrent of unspoken truths between. My heart remained restless, the memory of our shared moment still fresh in my mind. It was a precarious dance between friendship and a burgeoning connection, one we hadn't expected, but sitting there amidst the warmth of companionship and the thrill of what had just transpired, one thing was clear. This was the start of something intricate and profound, a story neither of us could have foreseen.